This is another one of a Patreon request from Tyler Prawl. Hi, Tyler.
Hey, Tyler. Thanks for checking this one.
Yeah, you can check out his Instagram and his webpage for his artworks. He does take commissions as well. He also has a tour of followers where you can meet him in person to meet him as well. This is what to pick. If you know Tyler's artworks, you know that he loves racing in cars. So it'll be an obvious selection to pick this movie.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
Hey, I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks for finding us. Thanks for watching. And for our loyal fans like Tyler, thank you for continuing to support the show. And you could be like Tyler and join the Patreon. We got some great content up there. We got our De Palma picks. We got horror picks.
We just did our favorite vampire films on there, which was really, really fun. And we got some new episodes coming for this month. So
yeah, and it's an opportunity to tell us what movies we can review on the show, just like Tyler did. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and all social media. You can contact us there. Also, tell us to friends about the show. Hit a like and subscribe. It's a little thing you can do to help us out. Big time. And today we're going to talk about a relatively new movie for us. We don't really talk about a lot of new movies, occasionally, but we're going to talk about a new one, Gran Turismo.
Yeah. This is the stranger than fiction tale of an auto marketing guru who gives a Gran Turismo player a chance to compete in real auto racing, but only if a former race car driver turned trainer believes he can do it.
Okay, so usually when you critique stories, usually a nonfiction story, you critique, how is that possible? Usually when you critique fiction, you're like, that doesn't make any sense, right? You usually critique it that way. And this movie is kind of like, how is this possible when you can kind of know it's true? And right, the thing is, when you do true stories, it's like, this can't be possible. You're right, and that's the kind of the gimmick for a true story. This was written by two people. Jason Hill, who was a writer for, I think it was called Spread, right?
Yeah,
Spread.
I think so, yeah.
And then he did American Sniper when he got a lot of accolades for the writing for that, and I think he got a nomination for that. And then thank you for your service. Coming in is Zach Brayland, who's doing King Richard. You literally like King Richard.
I liked it well enough.
Yeah.
It's a movie that's way too long, but it's a good movie and a great performance from Will Smith.
Yeah, and then he co-wrote it Creed 3, which we were good on.
I
Creed
like that
3.
one, yeah.
Yeah, and then he's already attached to do another Crow movie with starring Bill Skarsgård. So he's in the. I don't know if that's in pre-production.
It's confusing because I've heard from various people that it's in pre-production, regular production, and post-production all at the same time. I don't really know where it is, but a Crow movie, I won't believe it's actually real until I see a trailer.
Yeah, so that's Zach Brayland, the other person who wrote the script for this. It's directed by.
Yeah, Neil Blomkamp, who, I mean, really broke out onto the scene with District 9. He'd done some short films, especially one that influenced District 9, but, like, that was the big breakout.
It was so just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
District 9, yeah.
I just remember being that kind of movie with a trailer that was so good that you were like, this movie can't live up to it, so I missed it in theaters. And I only picked it up when it came on home video, and I was like, oh, no, it actually is that damn good. And then followed it up with what a lot of people consider to be lesser films. Elysium, Chappie, a lot of short film work that he did with Netflix, his own little studio. He was also attached to do an Alien 5 for a little while.
Please get it back going, because Sigourney Weaver really wants to do it.
Side note, I don't want that movie.
Why don't you want that movie?
I like Alien 3, no. Right. But then he actually was going to do a legacy sequel to RoboCop, and he only quickly left that film and then immediately jumped board onto Gran Turismo, which originally had Joseph Kosinski attached to it, who would later do another high-octane film with Top Gun Maverick. So a lot of directors swapping around with this kind of a property, and really a lot of people that didn't know what this movie was going to be.
Right, they didn't know. So yeah, it changes hands for different variety of scripts. A lot of other people were attached to it before Neil came on board to direct. So you have a lot of different directions you want to go. You want to go gritty realism. You want to appease the gamers. Do you want to do an action? So you have different avenues coming in at once. Of course, starring David Harbour, who we'll get to my review. Kind of grounded the movie. You have playing Jan, the real life person. I can't remember how you say his last name. It's Jan Mardenborough. You have Archie with Madekwe, I think. Madekwe.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably saying it wrong too. But he was in Beau is Afraid this year, which he was in Beau is Afraid this year.
Oh,
the film
I haven't
with
seen that
Joaquin
yet.
Phoenix that was amazing and wonderful and nothing like this movie at all.
And then playing his mom is Spice Girl.
Yeah, that
Jerry-
was something where she looked familiar the whole damn movie, and when I saw the name at the end, I was like, no, that's not right.
Yeah, it's Jerry. I don't know what Spice Girl.
Hollowell Horner. I think she got married, so her last
yeah.
name has an addition.
We're in the United States. I don't know what Spice Girl that is, but you're numb enough. You were a kid.
I would have known 10 years ago.
And then rounding out the casting, you have Orlando Bloom, who's playing very conniving. It's very interesting to play this kind of not really a pleasant person. You know?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember like a recent Orlando Bloom performance that was so antagonistic. I guess.
Antagonist is the word.
When he reprised his role of Legolas in the Hobbit prequels, he was a little antagonistic, but like nothing that was flat out like.
No,
because he presents the character as very much a good guy. He's starting the story. He's
Right.
almost our protagonist at the
Yeah,
beginning.
we get to my review that
You know?
he's very wholesome in his pitch.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then playing Jan's dad is Digimon Hansu.
Yeah, well, Jaimon Hansu was
Digimon Hansu. Thank you for
broke on the scene with what was it?
Guardians.
Guardians in 2014 was probably the first like big release, but he did Gladiator in 01. He was on
That's right.
Amistad.
That's right.
Spielberg's film back from what was that, the late 90s.
Yeah, this is around '97 when the Amistad came out. That was a bomb.
Yeah, and well, the thing about Jaimon Hansu is that I appreciate that he should be a lead actor. You know, like he should be
Right.
getting lead roles, but I also really appreciate that he just adds a little extra pop to every performance he's in. You know, he popped up in Quiet Place Part 2 a couple years back. Really small role. Guardians, he wasn't a very big role. He keeps showing up as the Shazam wizard.
I'm Star-Lord. And he goes, who?
And I
Which
think-
is like everybody in the world, yeah.
The thing about him is that every time he shows up, I'm just happy to see him yet again. So I'm never going to fault a little sprinkling of Jaimon Hansu on our
No, everybody that was cast in this movie, I think casting has to be celebrated. Casting was wonderful. Everybody fits kind of what they needed to do in this movie, and everybody brought a little bit good performance into it.
It's smart with making Jan's character like hiring a relative nobody, like in terms of like, you know, I don't know who Archie Madekwe is. I'd never heard his name before seeing this film, and then catching other things that I'd seen him in like bit roles. So it was really nice to take kind of a newcomer to the business and surround them with very capable actors.
Yes.
To kind of uplift that. That's always a brilliant idea. You never want to go all one way or all another. This is a great way to lift up new performing talent. So,
Okay, cinematography is Jacques Jofferet. Did I say it right?
I think so. I don't.
If I said it wrong, please put it in the comments. He's worked as camera operator for many films before doing cinematography for the Purge installments.
I think he did at least the first three. I don't know if he did the fourth or fifth films, but that was like 1, 2, 3 punch. And I've always liked the way the Purge films look.
Yeah, aesthetically, I mean, the story might be hard to digest, but aesthetically, it's there, man.
There's a style that's like celebratory to those films, which kind of matches what The Purge is, but also like dirty and grungy, and I think that works pretty well. Jacques also did films like Mile 22, which I think was my like second least favorite film of the year it came out, and the film Songbird, which was a movie released during COVID that was about COVID being the end of the world. So a real crowd pleaser film back in 2020. My least favorite film of that year as well. But the thing is about both those films, they both looked pretty good. So even I think in bad movies, he seems to elevate the cinematography pretty nicely.
This is PlayStation Productions. This is also Columbia Pictures. So Columbia Pictures is trying to get back into the game, and of course distributed by Sony. That's kind of funny. That's PlayStation's making this movie and Sony's distributing it.
Oh yeah, 'cause, I mean Sony picked up Columbia and TriStar back when they were both like kind of in the dumps. And
I know
and,
it's pretty much 3 different offices handing off.
yeah, money just transfers around, and that's kind of a peculiar thing. But
Yeah.
the thing about PlayStation Productions is, when I heard the idea that they were like, we're going to start a studio just to make our kinds of films, I was like, well, that sounds like a whole bunch of bad. But I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised with their Uncharted film. I don't have a PlayStation, so I've never played any of these Source games, but I kind of dug the Uncharted film. I never got around to seeing The Last of Us, but it sounds like that was beloved by everyone who saw it. And so it's not like they're really hitting on poor performing films, and especially when we need more video game adaptations that are actually good.
No, we'll get to a review in a minute, but it feels like they called up Marvel Studios and said, how did you start your universe? We started it small. and then we worked up. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think there's also work
What's
being
the
done on
playbook
like
that you cut?
a God of War like series, and it's like that's going to be tough. That's going to be a very tough thing to
Yeah,
pull off,
because playing
'cause it
that
looks
is
expensive.
the experience of doing it rather than being a witness. It's almost like the Doom movie.
Yeah.
You'd rather go back and play Doom than watch the movie Doom.
Yeah, that's consistently been the problem with video game adaptations. And the thing about this is a lot of people, I think when Kozinski was attached to this film, it was a racing movie based on the game. And that's kind of the public opinion, is that this would be the same, but it's a unique take because it's not really based on the game.
Yeah.
But it gets kind of sold in that video game adaptations bundle still.
Okay, we're kind of dancing on it. I think it's time now to give us our review. What did you think of Gran Turismo?
I love the racing scenes. I want to start with the racing scenes because I think they're expertly done. I love how, you remember when we talked about Tetris earlier this year? We talked about how like there were moments when like the scene around them kind of became pixelated, and they really played up the Tetrisness of the real story. I like that this film does that as well. The scenes where they're racing and you actually see like the drive line show up. I love when you
From
see
the
that,
game, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you see Jan's car as he passes people. You get the place in it embraces the video game-ness of Gran Turismo, while also being a very competently done racing film. The drone usage in this movie is great. You can tell a lot of those drone sequences of where they're driving between the cars. I looked at a film like Ambulance last year, which had a lot of great drone footage, but then overused drone footage, as Michael Bay would do, to an incomprehensible amount where you lose kind of the magic of it. This film uses it right. So I do think the racing scenes, above all else, is the reason to see the movie.
There's a gimmick in the movie where they tell David Harbour character, get in a helicopter, and it's like, I'm not going to look from the helicopter's point of view, and then he does. And then for the rest of the movie, we get helicopter
And then he
point
keeps enjoying it, yeah.
But then as viewers, we get helicopter point of view, so, which is kind of like you telling the person, the character, try this angle, and then we get it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost kind of a laugh in itself, kind of an inside joke kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Overall, racing movies is tough because you kind of know it's almost like when you watch poker movies.
Yeah.
There's one with Matt Damon, The Rounders. It's hard because you know the ending to it. And there's only one difference.
It's hard to overcome that, especially based on a true story film, because you really know the ending then, like it's played out for you.
Yeah, and especially like any kind of sports movie, like The Hustler. You kind of have to know the ending. You know where you're going to get there, but it's how you're going to get there. Right. Overall, I think it's not going to be considered one of the best movies of the year because there's a lot going. But I would give it like this is a solid, good movie.
Oh, yeah, definite recommendation for me because
high recommendation.
I think amongst the film's flaws, and I'll definitely get into those, there is the things that it does well are the things it needs to do well. Like I said, the racing scenes, I think the integration between when they're in the car and then when they do these flashes of like him in his bedroom on the console.
Kind of showing that in the car as well as being in his home, it's almost the same experience. Yes.
I think celebrating Jan's character and kind of how he differs from everybody else. Like, I really love that he was listening to like Orinoco Flow before he gets behind the wheel of a car.
Yeah,
and he listens to his Kenny G. I find that very endearing for a character. Those kinds of elements are where you need to win. And I think, again, like lifting up this actor and this character with great supporting work from David Harbour is a wonderful way to do that. I think David Harbour is at his best in this film.
Yeah, everybody's characters' motivations are clear. Everybody, whether you agree with the characters or not, motivations, intents, and what they want to do is very clearly established. Jan's not the alt-right great player of all of them, but he's actually one of the most motivated and committed.
Yeah,
he's not the greatest player. Yeah,
until he succeeds. I really like that they show the scene early on where he's experimenting with the game, because I think if you've played a video game long enough, you know that you get to a certain point where you just start trying dumb stuff, or start trying things that you don't.
Right, that's the whole point of Resident Evil. I won the game. Well, let's try the other doors that don't make any sense. Yeah,
I have failed Resident Evil way more than I've succeeded at it.
Right.
But showing him as that character and then bringing that back as the film goes on, that was a really great way to utilize that. Now, some of the things I didn't like about the film, unfortunately, there was some additional character work that I felt was unnecessary and a little cliche. I think this romance between Jan and this younger woman who moves away to go to school, and I just didn't think any of that added to the narrative.
It seemed forced in the writing. Like you needed this female character to be in the stands going, yay, like Karate Kid.
Yeah. And then elements of Jan and his parentage, I think the writing for that doesn't really, it's very cliche. It's very much like, well, my dad doesn't want me to do this, because it's not realistic. We see that so often in these kinds of films. The only thing that I think saves that argument with the parents is Djimon Hounsou's performance as the dad. I think he elevates what is a little bit of a mediocre kind of a character role. And that's why I say, like, he pops in every role he's in, because he makes even poorly written characters work really well within the narrative.
There's also times where they replay the same scene.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like the conversation with the dad's played over maybe 3 times. The same shot, the same scene over. It's like, why are we going back to this?
Yeah, that's helpful in like a 6-hour miniseries, you know, because you've been there a long time. But this is a 2-hour movie, and I think as viewers have a little bit more faith in us that we're going to remember that sequence or show it to us in a different form so that it's not repetitive, because it was a little repetitive.
There's a lot of places where I kind of got frustrated with a lot of too many establishing shots. Way too many. I would tone down I know you're at a racetrack. You don't have to go boom, 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 like you're trying to fit all this in one little pace. I know you went to Tokyo. You don't have to tell me 5 different scenes of establishing that you went to Tokyo. And then when you're in Tokyo, you go on a tour to walk around in Tokyo. Yeah. It seemed like a Tokyo tourist thing where you wasted 10 minutes telling me it's Tokyo with not any advancing the story. So there's a lot of this establishing shot that's very clever, but take those away, and I think you can trim out about 10 more minutes of this movie.
Yeah, because I felt the length of the film. Near the end, I started to feel like, you know, this is another 2023 movie that maybe needs a 15-minute trim.
Right, and it's a Columbia picture, which Columbia Pictures were known for up to 1980, that it had to be under 90 minutes.
Yep.
And this is a Columbia picture we're complaining about it's too long.
Yeah, exactly. I think, the film is winning when it's doing the racing scenes and when it's doing the Archie and David as Jan and Jack Salter scenes. Those relationship scenes work really well because I like that, you know, David Harbour's character Jack is entering this narrative with the idea basically like a ghost hunter, where he's like, you think that ghosts are real, I'm going to prove to you that they're not. He's like, you know, you think you can drive these cars even though you play this video game. I'm going to prove to you that you can't. And I love that he comes into it basically trying to force Archie and the other characters to quit. And then they come together a little bit. They realize each other's strengths and faults. That makes a really great character relationship. And if the film focused a little bit more on that, which it does quite a bit, but more, I think it would have been a stronger narrative overall.
There's a lot of been criticisms from other people that within the story, the significant crash that Jan has in the movie is a pivotal point to keep going, and then he kind of gets a podium seat for the Le Mans in the movie. But in real life, it happened after he won Le Mans, and it's kind of not really glossed over, but it was kind of presented that this is a pivotal point in his movie rather than this is a crucial element part of it, like maybe we should... You know, after this crash, maybe we should investigate these people being part of it. I think they did it the right way in this movie. I understand it's not the real reality point. You have to present sometime that this horrible crash did occur and somebody did die from this crash, and then investigate, like, is it kind of who's responsible, you know, all this stuff. Yeah. That gets played out. But, is for when you're adapting from real life, you have to jumble sometimes pieces. Bohemian Rhapsody did it. They did a lot of things that didn't fit linear to what Freddie Mercury's life, but this movie fits in what's necessary to put it in. If you don't agree with me, add to the comments, because that's a crucial element that's going to be talked about a lot in this movie going forward, based on a true story, and then you jumble this piece that happened before and after, right?
Well, and that's a discussion that's been happening for decades, and it'll probably keep happening. But my thought process is this. I don't like when films advertise themselves as based on a true story, because it brings the expectation that you're going to tell the truth. But that being said, this is not a documentary.
No.
And I think to compare,
you got to understand, based on a true story means 98% of it is BS.
Yeah. A Texas Chainsaw Massacre is based
on a true story. And then based on actual events means it's 99% BS.
Yes. So when it comes down to it, to compare this to another film that Tyler picked for us, Schumacher, that's a documentary. I want truth in that documentary because it's real footage. I want you to tell me that this is real. I want you to give me real footage. If this is an adaptation of what's happened in real life, I don't need it to be 100% truthful. But I also don't like when movies, like, for example, this film was actually marketed in some countries. The full title was Gran Turismo, based on a true story. Like, it was actually in the full title released. Yeah. That, I think, is kind of a foolish thing to do, I guess, because you are not basing it 100%. I just don't like when films sell themselves as based on a true story if they're not going to. But that being said, the film itself, I don't mind that it shuffled things around, because I'm not looking for 100% of the story. If I want the real story, there's books. There's books, there's documentaries. This is not that. So I think it worked pretty well for driving the character's journey, which is what's important.
Yes, necessarily, right.
Yep.
And I think that's a lot of very interesting points. If you told me two people wrote this script and maybe they didn't work together and someone you went in and made a script, it feels like two people wrote this script, and I think that's kind of one of the flaws to this.
Yeah, and I think Blomkamp shows again that like he is a very capable director, and I think that his issues have been ones with his writing and with his character work. He can direct the hell out of a movie, but you'll notice with things like District 9, even that film is presented a little bit more documentary style at the beginning. To do the character work, it's a smart choice directing. But when he's forced to work on these little character moments, it doesn't always come through. And I think with a screenplay that doesn't give those characters much to do, that's the problem. But thankfully, like I said before, what it does well is what it needs to do well, which is the racing and the relationship between Harbour and Madekwe.
And it sells the whole point of Jan's arc of
Yep.
being super awkward and never having any vessel to have an opportunity to be a racer, but this video game provides it.
Yep. I believed
yeah.
his character, which is what you need to do in these kinds of based on a true story but really fake stories.
Yeah. So, have you seen it yet? And what do you think of our review so far?
Yeah.
Get the conversation going.
Yeah, let us know down below. Where does it sit in your 2023 film rankings? It's not going to be my top 10, but it's also far from my bottom 10. But where is it for you? Let us know down in the comments section below. And maybe once you've seen Barbie and Oppenheimer 6 or 7
I have
times,
to say this
you can
might
check
be
this
one of
out.
Orlando's best performances.
Yeah, I like when he plays these mixed kind of nebulous characters where
Yeah.
you're not really sure where they stand because he does have a kind of attitude to him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let us know your thoughts down below. And thank you guys for joining us for this episode.
Thank you.
And thank you for Tyler for picking. If you want to be like Tyler, like Nick said,
Yes.
link is down in the description. Patreon.com/KyleNickOnFilm. It's easy to remember. Go ahead and click it right now. And you can find all of my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
You can find my show, the St. Paul Filmcast, anywhere you find podcasts. In fact, you can probably listen to it as you're playing Gran Turismo.